All right, so you've done some adjustments to an image and now you want to get more heavy into your localized adjustments. Let's take a look at the layers panel. So under the layers panel, we're basically set up where right now we're highlighted on what's considered to be the background layer. So that is actually when it organizes the layers in here, it organizes them like you would find them inside of Photoshop. So you have a variety of different brushes that you can do. So for example, if I click on the regular brush, it goes in, allows me to paint a mask. So as I'm painting a mask, you'll notice it just throws the mask on there. But it's not that thorough. So one thing you want to keep in mind is that it creates a mask based on where I just painted. And if I click again, you'll notice it's still there. So if I make the brush bigger, I can once again continue painting around the area. But it also will include it when I go back to paint it some more. You'll see that it does clip a little bit in and out of certain areas. If I want to speed up the selection of the mask, I can also click this tool here, which gives me the ability to, which if you notice, if I hover here, this is called the draw mask. This one is called the magic brush. If I click with the magic brush around, the magic brush will allow me to choose a lot of areas similar, but what it does is a lot more powerful because once I get done, if I go back in now and go to paint, you'll notice that it actually did everything I needed to have done to this image has been selected. And then if I want to go in and erase any part of what I've done, I also have the capability of doing a magic eraser. So I could go back in now and say, remove the mask from the part of the building here that I don't want to be changing color or exposure or whatever I'm going to be doing with the mask. And I can also go in and eliminate this area here. And once again, as long as I don't go too far out of what I'm doing, it does a pretty good job of selecting areas to remove. For example, it did seem to get some of that sky out of there. So now I'll go back in with the regular brush and paint in here. Just trying to keep this area selected. And it's a mix. I'm going to go ahead for our purposes. I'm going to go ahead and pick the clouds that branches completely, and then go back to the regular eraser, and then go in and just make it a little bit smaller. Zoom in on my image. Go in and just make sure that I'm removing from areas that I feel that need to be removed. Not bad. All right, so now I'll go ahead and zoom back out. And with that mask in play, you'll notice that you see all the same tools as you saw before. They're not like in Lightroom where they're actually grouped into this separate set. So now what I'm going to go ahead and do is just go ahead and adjust the exposure and pull down the exposure in the sky. Got to be careful not to have it go too crunchy looking. And then I'll pull down the highlights in the sky. I'll go ahead and pull this up a little bit. And I can go ahead and cool this off if I want, which might help a little bit with the little bit of yellow that's showing up in the clouds. And then I can also go in here and use this, say, with the color editor. For example, I can grab the blues and just really quickly go in and pull the saturation up in the blues, make them more dramatic, or pull it down depending on what I want to do. In this case, I just want to mess around with the lightness or darkness. So I'm just going to go ahead and darken my blues a little bit. And I'm going to shift the hue a little bit to make it a little bit more dramatic. And I might go back in once again. Now, because I've done this completely on a layer, I can basically turn it off at any time I want, just to see what it did to the image. and you can see how powerful that can be. I can also go in, and while that's there, I can go down here. Now I'm just adjusting the core of the image. And in this instance, for example, if I wanted to make this a little bit on the cooler side, I might go ahead and put it at like 5,000, which gets a little bit rid of that base yellow cast that I had in there. And in the sky, but now at the same time, that's going to affect the other. So now we've got the image looking a lot more powerful. So this is a cool way to play around with this mask. You can also, if you wanted, do a different mask. For example, we have the draw a linear gradient. So once again, like the graduated filter that you've seen before, you can go in and drag it from one point to another, and it creates a mask that overlays the image. And then if you wanted to, once you do that, you can go in and remove areas that have been selected. Oh, that's an interesting little thing. Let's go ahead and rasterize the mask. So now I go in and I'm erasing parts of where it's selected. So once again, I'm just going to drag in here and let it go smart. Oops. Let's undo. And I'll click here again. Okay. I'll go ahead and carefully click in here instead of clicking into the sky. And now I'm going to pick there. Once again, I can pick this area, pick this area. So now you've got a graduated filter set the way you want. And so in this instance, I can go in now and do something similar by pulling down the exposure of the sky. Getting rid of that yellowish cast, I can pull this down and see if that pulls it out. Gotta be careful not to go too crazy there. And then I can go into don't like the saturation. I can go in here and play around with these a little bit, see what happens when I move these around in the levels. And then once I go back down here to the color editor tool, once again I can choose a color that I might want to adjust. Once again, blue, pull down the lightness of the blue and maybe shift the color of the blue. And then once I do that, I've kind of adjusted the sky for what I want. Still not liking this 100% in terms of what I'm processing to show you guys, but at least you guys get the idea. So now I can basically use either this one or I can use this one depending on how I did it. So the graduated is because the way the graduated was done, it is more effect up top than it is at the bottom. And the same thing would work again if you're doing a radial filter. So if you went in here and chose radial filter, basically you'll be creating a mask that works something similar to this. And so you're choosing an area that you want it to actually have the mask and where you don't want it. And then once again, if you pull down the exposure, you can see kind of how that works. So that's basically how this one works. I'm just showing you guys in a quick nutshell. Anytime you don't like a mask, you can go in and clear it, or you can just quickly go in while it's selected here. I can just go ahead and get rid of it. And anytime I want to create a new mask, I can just go ahead and click here. The healing brush and the clone tool work similar to healing brush you used before, but once again, it creates a layer when you go to do it. So basically, I can choose the brush, choose a layer, and then as I'm adjusting it, going in spot removal, it basically is applying it on a layer versus having it apply to the actual image itself, which really isn't happening because this is non-image destructive editing, so it's really just in the memory of this. But it's a quicker turn off when you can go ahead and just click it here to turn it off. So once again, layers.